the first thing we have to do is we have to write it in the exponential form. So what is the exponent on top if no exponent is written? So 1, okay. And then what is the exponent on the bottom? But it's in a radical, so what's the exponent on the bottom? It's a 4th root. It's a 4th root, so what's the exponent on the bottom? 1/4. Whew, that was rough. Okay, so if it's a division problem, what do you do with your exponents? You subtract them. So you can either rewrite the number 1 as a fraction so that you have common denominators so that you can subtract them, or you can subtract them in a calculator. Those are your 2 options. Okay, so if I was subtracting them in a calculator, I would just do 1 minus 1/4, get my answer, convert it into a fraction. Or if I was doing it by hand, I would take the 1 and I would write the 1 as 4/4, and then I would subtract them and get my answer. Okay, and then once you get that, then you can convert it back into the radical form. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and take some paper out so we can do the next. Okay, so for the first problem, we're going to do 10 plus square root of a plus 7 equals 11. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to isolate the variable, and to do that we're going to do order of operations backwards. So order of operations is PEMDAS, right? Like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Do you guys remember that though? Okay, so if we do PEMDAS backwards, then that means we're going to do the A and the S first, so that's adding and subtracting. Second is going to be multiplying and dividing. Third is going to be exponents. And then fourth, it would be parentheses. When you're younger in math, they say parentheses only, but they really mean grouping symbols. So the first thing is just whatever groups things together and makes it so there's an outside of the problem and an inside of the problem. So what you do first is you do everything that is outside of the problem, and then the very last thing you do is you get to the inside of the problem. It's an opposite order of operations. If we were doing a problem, like if this was a number and I just wanted to see what this equals, I wanted to evaluate it, then I would do order of operations in the correct order, and I would do my grouping symbols first. I would do the inside of the function first, starting inside and working my way outside. But in this problem, the square root is kind of considered to be where my grouping symbol is. If we had parentheses, we would put them right here, but they're kind of redundant. We don't really need to put them there because we know that the a plus 7 is already a group underneath the square root symbol. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask myself is I'm going to say, is there something that's easily added or subtracted to move it away from the A? The 10. The 10. So the 7 is not because it's protected by the square root. Do you see how the 10 would be easier to move than the 7? So the 7 is protected, the 10 is not. So the easiest thing would be to subtract the 10 over to the other side. So square root a plus 7 equals 1. Next step is to ask yourself, is there anything that would be easy to multiply or divide away from the A on this side? And in this particular situation, you'd say, no, there's nothing I could multiply or divide to the other side. The third step is to ask yourself, is there an exponent that I could get rid of or an exponent I could introduce to the problem to help simplify? Yeah, you could square the square root. So this exponent, that is an exponent. Because a squared, it's a 2 that's an exponent. So we're going to introduce a squared. So the exponent wasn't already there. We are introducing the exponent to help get rid of something else. It's the opposite of the root that you have. So if you had a square root, you do a 2. If you have a cube root, you do a 3. If you have a fourth root, you do a 4. Well, it's the opposite of the radical. So a square root, the opposite of that is a squared. The opposite of a cube root is a cube. Yeah. No, I got you. It's the same number, but it's the opposite for this particular thing. Okay, so these two cancel. So I have a plus 7 equals, what's 1 squared? 1. And so what just happened is that when I introduced that exponent, I got inside my grouping symbols. And now I'm going to go back to the beginning. So now I'm going to say, is there anything I could add or subtract to get the a alone? I can subtract the 7. So a equals -6. Where we find it how?
Like we just solve an equation, but it's just like that. Order of operations. But it's fun. It is.
Like a day where we just solve equations?
Yeah, like not like this equation.
Just like regular equations?
Like the one in like math ones that like where you're
Like
finding x and y.
x equals
Or y equals
10 plus 7 or something.
But you give us like big numbers.
Bless you guys. Okay.
You know.
Okay. I got ideas. I'll think of something. Okay. All right. Majestic Monday. All right, here's the next one. We got square root of 6w minus 5 plus 10 equals 3. I'm going to write them so that you can see them, but you don't have to write them. Okay. Is there something I could easily add or subtract to the other side to get it away from the w? Subtract the 10. Okay. Square root 6w minus 5 equals 3. Subtract 10. Negative. Wait, what did we say? -7? Perfect. Okay. Is there something I could multiply or divide to get it away from the w? Yeah, there's nothing. Right now, everything's protected in there, so we're just going to have to move on. Is there an exponent I could get rid of or an exponent I could introduce? I could introduce an exponent of 2, so I'm going to do that. Squared, squared. Cancel you, cancel you. Okay, 6w minus 5 equals, what's -7 squared? Positive 49, perfect. With that, we got into our grouping symbols, so now we're going to go back to the beginning. Is there something we could add or subtract? We're going to add the 5. Okay. 6w equals 54. Okay. Is there something I can multiply or divide? Divide by 6. W equals 9. Now, this problem is interesting because, and actually we have to go back and check the other answer too. I forgot with these. We have to check the answers because the answers don't always work. So we always have to go back and check and make sure the answers aren't what we call extraneous solutions. So we're just going to check both of these answers at the same time. So we're going to store the answer in our calculator. So I'm going to do -6. Now, do you guys want to store it as x and just type an x in here, or do you actually want to use the letter A? X? We're okay with X? So I typed in -6. Now I'm going to hit the store button right down here, store, and then I'm going to hit X. So -6, I'm storing it as X. The store button is right above the on button. And I should see everybody doing it. Everybody has their calculator in their hand because everybody's trying this. So -6, storing it as X, and it looks like this on your screen. Yep, stow.
-6 store X.
Mm-hmm. Press enter. The X is right next to the green button. Yep. So -6, store as X, and now if you hit the X button and press enter, you'll get -6 on the screen. Everyone got that? Yep. That's how you can, right next to the green button. Okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to type the original problem and we're going to make sure it equals 11. So I'm going to type 10 plus square root x plus 7. The square root is second of x squared. See it in blue right above the x squared? Yep. So second x squared. Right here, 3 buttons below the green one.
How do you put equals 49? Maybe not equals. I mean equals 3.
Oh, I got an exponent when I did that.
You have to hit the second first. So you do 10 plus and then hit the second and then the x squared.
Oh, okay.
That's the very first one.
Okay, so the first one is good. That answer was fine. It was supposed to equal 11 and it did. So that's a good answer. For the second one, we got 9. So now I'm going to hit 9. I'm going to store it as x. Okay. And now I'm going to type this in. So I'm going to do square root of 6x minus 5 with a plus 10 on the end. And that should equal 3. And what does it equal?
7.68.
I got it equals 17.
Wait, how do we get it from out of under the?
Oh, you press the right arrow. Square root 6x minus 5, and then hit the right arrow, and then plus 10.
It says error.
Did you store your x as 9? Did you type a minus and not a -5? So it looks exactly like this. This is a long line and not a short little one. Like it looks like that, and it doesn't look like this. So that's wrong. It's supposed to look big. It should look like this. You stored the number 9 for x. So if you hit your X button, just make sure it's 9. Was everyone else able to get 17? Yes? Okay. Is 17 3? No, it was supposed to equal 3. So that means this answer, we solved it correctly. It means this answer doesn't work, which means there is no solution. Which, it makes sense if you think about it, though. The positive version of a square root plus 10 is never going to equal 3. Does that make sense if you think about it? Now, if they had said the negative version of the square root plus 10, that would probably equal 3. But the positive version of a square root plus 10 is always going to be bigger than 10. There's no way for it to get back smaller than 3. Or smaller than 10, really. Okay. So every so often, you're going to run into one where the answer actually doesn't work. Okay. Let's try the next example. So we're going to do -36 equals -9 times c minus 12 to the 1/2. So this is just like having a radical, only I didn't write it as a radical. I wrote it as an exponent. And I'm going to show you the two different ways to do this problem depending on what you're comfortable with. Okay, so I'm still going to write out my steps. Okay, so first step, is there something I could add or subtract to the other side to get the C alone? Wait, I can't add the 9 though. Because it's currently being multiplied. Okay. So we're not going to distribute because we want to move stuff away. We don't want to add stuff to the C. We want to move it away. Okay. So the next step, can I multiply or divide stuff to move it away from the C? Yes. I can divide by -9.
Oh, so you don't want the 9
No. You can't anyway because of the exponent. You can't move this inside. Because this is actually -9 square root C minus 12, and coefficients can't go inside of radicals. Yeah. Okay, so we have divide by -9, and what does that give you? Gives you 4. Okay. The next step is, can we introduce an exponent? Get rid of an exponent or introduce an exponent? And the answer is yes. So there's two different ways to think of this problem, and I'm going to show you the two different ways depending on what your comfort is with exponents. Okay? So if you are very comfortable with exponents, you might choose to leave it in this form. So people who are comfortable with exponents would say, I know how to get rid of a 1/2. I just take it and I raise it to the second power. Because if I raise it to the second power, 1/2 times 2 is what? 1. 1/2 times 2 is 1. And if I do 1/2 times 2 and I get 1, then that's the same thing as C minus 12 to the 1. And C minus 12 to the 1 is just C minus 12. And for some people, that is really comfortable to see. That is not comfortable for me. I hate thinking of it that way. So I prefer to take this and think of this as the square root of C minus 12. And if you think of this as the square root of C minus 12, then how do you get rid of the square root? Yeah, you just square it. So we're still doing the same thing. It just depends on how your brain likes to see the problem. So you can either leave the exponent as a 1/2, or you can say, no, I don't like the exponent of 1/2. Let me rewrite this as a radical instead because I'd rather get rid of a radical. All right, so if I square the right side, I should square the left side. If I square the right side, I should square the left side. So either way, we have 16 equals C minus 12, both sides. Okay. We got to the inside of the parentheses, so now we're going back up to the first step. Is there something I could add or subtract to get it away from the C? I can add the 12. Mm-hmm. I wasn't squaring the inside, I was squaring the square root and they canceled. The 1/2 and the 2, they multiplied.
Well, no, not that. Like the right, the one on the right, your way.
This right here.
Yes.
I rewrote it down here. This 1/2 is this. And I multiplied the exponents, they became a 1.
If we write it as C equals 28, or no, 28 equals C, is it still wrong?
It's still the same. Yep. So over here I did the 1/2 and then I raised it to the 2. Over here I wrote the 1/2 as an square root. So the 1/2 is still there. I just wrote it two different ways. Mm-hmm. Okay, so C equals 28. Now I need to take that 28 and just see if the problem actually works out. So I'm going to do 28. I'm going to store it as X. And then I'm going to go back and plug it into the problem. So negative 9 times x minus 12 to the 1/2. And let's make sure that equals negative 36. I should hear some clicking because everybody's typing it in.
Yeah.
I typed 1 divided by 2. I didn't do it as a fraction. I typed 1 divided by 2. I didn't type the negative 36, but when I get the answer, it should say negative 36. It should say negative 36. Yeah. So to get my exponent, I did this up arrow right here. They call it the caret. I typed that to get my exponent, and then I typed 1 divided by 2 in my exponent. I didn't actually make it a fraction, but 1 divided by 2 is the same thing as 1/2.
It's in there.
Yes, I have non-real answer.
Okay, if you have non-real answer, go ahead and bring me your calculator. Let's see. What's the issue? I don't know what the issue is. Well, okay, you don't have a different number that you're storing as your x, so that might be the issue. You didn't switch what your x is. So 28 store, so we have to store the new number as x. So I'm guessing that's what the issue is.
Let me do
Yeah.
that too.
So now you're good.
Let me do that too.
Did you store the new number as x?
Minus.
Yes.
You don't put negative unless it's like.
So I did clear it, but I don't think it's
No, it'll always keep it negative 30. No, it's not negative 36, it's 28. Because 28 was the answer. The answer was 28.
Do you always have to put the answer inside?
Yeah, because that's what we're doing. We're plugging the answer back in to see if the answer works. So that's what you need to
Oh,
plug
and it
in.
has to equal negative 37.
So 28 stores x, and then now we go back in, plug the x in. Now it's fine.
Okay.
And it equals negative 36 like it should. Did you store 28?
No.
Okay, that's the issue, I guarantee it. So store 28 as x, go back in, and now we're going to plug it in. So your issue is that you used a negative right here instead of a minus. So if we go back in here, put the minus. There we go.
So I'm supposed to put negative 9? That's why I got positive 36.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if we go back and put a negative in front.
Oh, I got negative 36.
Yep, there we go.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
He told me to just like.
Okay. Yes. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, let's do 7p minus 1 to the 1/3 plus 11 equals 7. You can't what?
Did your cat bite your hand?
Yeah, he was being, there's a little old cat that lives next door. I call him Scraggly Cat because I don't know his name. And my young cat, my baby cat, likes to bully Scraggly Cat. And I was going on a walk around the neighborhood, and my little cat and Scraggly Cat were following me. They were like walking around the neighborhood with me. And my little cat was making a game out of bullying Scraggly Cat as we were walking around the neighborhood. no, literally, he was like biting him. He was jumping on top of him and biting him. And Scraggly Cat was like trying to get away, but also trying to walk with us. It's very sad. It's like if a young child was beating up a grandpa while you were trying to go on a walk. That's literally exactly what it is. Scraggly Cat, whenever I get home, Scraggly Cat comes over to say hi, and then my little cat goes over to beat him up, and then he runs away. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. And he's Scraggly Cat. He's not like a healthy young, like he doesn't stick up for himself. He just...
Your kid's a bully.
My kid is a bully. Look at my hand. Of course he's a bully. Yeah, so he was being mean to Scraggly Cat, so I grabbed him and told him to stop, and he attacked my hand. Because he was... You know how cats get in their like instinctual mode where they're just like being fierce? He was being fierce and he attacked my hand. And it was rude. Yeah. All right. Okay, first step. Add or subtract something to get it away from the P. Subtract the 11. Okay. So we've got 7p minus 1 to the 1/3 equals -4. Okay. Second step, is there something we could multiply or divide? Nope, nothing we can multiply or divide because the 7 in here is protected, right? Third step, is there an exponent we could introduce? Yes. Do you guys prefer the problem written like this, or do you want to write this as a radical? We want to write it as a radical? Okay, so I'm going to write this as a cube root. 7p minus 1 equals -4. Okay, so how should we fix the problem? Okay, so I'm going to raise this to the 3rd power. I'm going to raise this to the 3rd power. So the cube root and the cube cancel. Does anyone know what -4 to the 3rd power is? -64. Okay. 7p minus 1. Okay, so we got inside of our grouping symbols, and now we're going back to the beginning. So is there anything you could add or subtract to get it away from the p? Can add the 1. Okay. And then is there anything we could multiply or divide? Divide by 7. P equals -9. Okay. And before we decide that this is the answer, we're going to plug it in and make sure that it works. So we're going to do -9 stored as x. -9 stored as x. And then I'm going to make sure that if I do 7x minus 1 to the 1/3 plus 11, that answer gives me 7. So this, I'm storing -9 as x, then I'm plugging this in, and that should give me 7 if I got the answer right. Because it gave 7 here. Okay, did everybody plug it in? Make sure it gives us the right thing?
How do you get the 1/3 when you press that arrow?
I did the caret. I did up arrow. I did this one right here. You have to store the final answer you got. Store -9.
How do I get back then?
To get back down, you hit the right arrow.
Plus 11.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Woo.
Stored -9 and it's giving me an error.
Actually, I got
You did -9 store x.
Hold on. I messed up.
Don't hit the store button before you hit.
I got 7 as the answer.
Okay, we should get 7. Okay. All right. You guys feel like you could try some? Okay. Let me, I printed a little worksheet for you. I think we could probably do, let's try the first 4. Yeah, let's try the first 4. It wasn't no solution because when I typed it in, I got 7, which is what it was supposed to equal. I'll come back and check your calculator.